What's up, everybody? Peek out here in Singapore, and I have another guest for you. This guy and I go back to 2005, 6-ish, something like that, when I was working for Wyndham Worldwide. Yeah, I wasn't working that long, but we started working together at what was Fairfield Resorts, and when changed over to Wyndham, and we've been friends for over 10 years, I think. We weren't like close friends. We didn't talk to each other all the time, but we rediscovered each other through social media. So thank God for social media. Hey, Camille. And it was kind of cool to be able to catch up with him and see what he's been doing, because he's one of those movers and shakers, and he doesn't sit still for long. And this man has accomplished a lot. I think it's pretty damn impressive. So I wanted to get him on here as well, so you could get to know a little bit of his story and see how he managed to get all of his work done the way that he has. I'm not going to give you too much information. Oh my gosh, yes, exactly, Camille. I don't know why you're up this late, but I'm grateful. I'm really glad that you're up. His name is Pre Williams, and right now he's on the West Coast. He's in Arizona, I believe, but I'm waiting for him to get on here so he can explain it to you as well. But totally love everything about him. He's a fitness geek. He's really good at building businesses. He was a really great sales rep when I met him. When we would I was marketing timeshare and he was selling timeshare. So I'm going to invite him on here. What I want you to see is how he made sure that he succeeds over and over again. Yes, you have failures and stuff, but I want to know his stories and like where he started, how he got to where he is, and he keeps going and going, man. He's like the Energizer Bunny. So amazing guy. I can't wait for you to meet him. Just give him a couple minutes to jump on here live, and we'll get it started. Hey, you finally done with your day?
Yeah, finally. What's going on?
You had a lot of clients today and stuff, huh?
Yeah, all day, man. I finished up my last one 10 minutes ago. Yeah.
I appreciate you joining us. I really do. So
yeah,
real
no problem.
quick, who are you? Where are you from? Let's get started from the beginning so people actually know what it takes to get to where you are.
I mean, I ain't nobody, man.
Shut up. You
No,
are. Shut up.
No, my name's Eric Williams. I'm from San Diego, California. Military family. Grew up in the Oakland area, then moved to Cali, San Diego. Then we moved to Arizona. Then we were in Virginia for a little bit. So, kind of moved all over the place. I lived in Germany and Texas and Maryland area. And now I'm here in Phoenix.
Hold up. Did you say Germany in there somewhere?
I did. Yep. I lived in Germany.
How was Germany for you? How'd you like that?
I really don't know because I was on the base a lot. But
oh, okay.
For the most part, like, I don't know, it was cool. The food was good. Food was good as hell. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
yeah, I know you're a foodie. Okay, I met you in Virginia. You happened to be working for Wyndham, and
right.
I don't know how many conversations we actually had while we were working there, but I knew you. I knew who you were. We saw each other and stuff. And then it wasn't until like way after that, until I moved back to Singapore, that we kind of connected again. But
right.
since then, I've been lucky enough to have you as a friend on Facebook and like watching everything you do, and you literally just don't stop from what I see. You enjoy your life. You work out hard. You have businesses. You just keep on going, and that's what I was telling everybody. Like, you're like the Energizer Bunny. You just keep on doing. But that's the trick, right? You got to keep doing.
I'm just hustling, man. Yeah, that's really it, man. Like, I don't know. I left Virginia 2011, like officially.
Okay.
And when I moved out here to Phoenix, I really didn't really know anybody except from a few people I went to college with. And
okay.
I have an older brother, so it's really just me and him. And then I was able to enlist some cousins to come out here and a couple other friends.
Okay.
And that's about it, really. And then my brother and I, we had like a small business. We had a small trucking company that we had started together. And that was cool. But from there, I became a licensed car dealer. I had my own dealership. So I started, from the very bottom. I was selling cars out the house, out the crib, You
Okay.
know what I mean? So
So
people
was
come
that
through.
like one of those, like, how did you get your inventory though? Is that something that
Nah, it's
you,
just auctions. You know what I mean?
okay.
So that was really all it was, just auctions.
I think Aaron was into
So it was
auctions as well,
just
but I don't think he really did much of anything with that. So I'm glad
oh
you
for
did, and it's working. Yeah. That's another story.
real.
People be
Yeah,
talking about
it
what
was
they gonna do, and then nothing happens. It's all good.
I guess you would say it was like the equivalent of like being out of the trunk with the mixtape. You know what I mean? You just
Yeah,
out of your out of the front yard with it. You know what I'm saying?
you
So
do whatever
that's
you
really
can
what
with
it
what you
was.
have. Yep.
Yeah.
So cars out of your driveway, basically, and then you just keep on growing from there. Like you develop a
Yeah, it was
reputation from that, or
I from there I did an internship with the this place called the Tempe Autoplex. I did that for
hmm
about a couple months just to learn the ins and outs of the car business. And then from there I met up with the older gentleman, him and his son and his wife, and we actually opened up a car dealership in Scottsdale,
okay,
Arizona. This was in um, 2013. It was September 2013 of when
okay,
we opened that up. So it was big. It was, you know, probably housed about 50 to 60 cars, whatever. And it was couldn't tell me shit. Like I just thought, it was it was like my first tangible thing that I've ever owned, and that people could come and some type of business like that. You know what I mean? Because I had never,
yeah,
with the exception of doing the stuff that you knew about, that we're doing sales in Virginia. But aside from that, this was like my first actual tangible business that I had hands-on owned myself. You know what I'm
and I
saying?
kind of
So
feel like selling timeshare doesn't even compare to what you were doing at that point. Like that's a physical you can physically give someone the keys to a car, and that's different
yeah,
than,
yeah,
oh,
it's
you
not
can,
even
you
close.
can stop in for a week and own it for a week and then come back again
Hmm.
next year. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I like that
yeah.
a lot
So it
better.
was cool. Yeah, it was a
So,
lot of fun. It was a lot of growing pains though, because it was my first time ever having like staff, first time ever having employees and dealing with contractors, and dealing with that, dealing with money on that type of level. Because before, like when I was living in Virginia, we're throwing like parties. You know what I'm saying? We're
yep.
like throwing just parties, and we're just kids, just out just having a good time. But this was like my first legitimate business, dealing with taxes, dealing with setting up corporate entities, because everything else was just you just throw some flyers together and get some kids to come out and party or whatever. But you
And
know
everyone wants to party. So this is not this. Yeah, it's not the same. This is like,
nah,
life
nah, it
choice.
was
It's making your life easier. It's a car. Getting from
yeah,
A to B. It's yeah.
yeah, the car
So
business is cool, was cool though. It was cool.
so what was your next endeavor from that? Like obviously you do way more than that now, but the
Well,
cars are where you started in Arizona,
so
right?
here's how that all went down. So I ran the company. It was myself, this older gentleman who was actually a pastor. He was a 60-something-year-old man, him and his wife and his brother, and everything was cool. Um, so from 2013 to 2000 and what was it? 2000, February 2015. Everything was great. Everything was kosher. Was having a really great time. I think our very first year, we did well over a million in gross sales. It was just like you couldn't tell me shit. Like I was just the happiest. I was the happiest motherfucker in the world. You got to let me know if this is PG-13 because it's like late. So
Nah,
I just
it's
say that
not.
right
These
up
are
top.
adults and they need to
All right.
know exactly what life is like, so I don't care.
All right. So yeah. Long story short, we were doing great, man. I had just got a house, and life was good, and everything was cool. Um, long story short, though, fast forward to what was it? August of 2017, I had got a call from um, from uh, from our accountant, and the accountant was like, "Okay, Mr. Williams, is there something you want to have a conversation with us about?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Well, it seems like we haven't heard from you all in a while, and it's time to renew your dealer license. But in order to do that, you have to file your taxes, and you know, you have to report your taxes, because when you own a dealership, you have to do everything on a monthly basis. You know
Oh,
what I'm
okay.
saying?
Okay.
So,
I didn't realize that.
and it hadn't
Monthly.
been done for like months. So
Oh.
I go and contact Phil, and I was like, "What's going on?" You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, because he was in charge of compliance. My position was just, you know, marketing and car sales. You know, I sold cars and shit, and I
Yeah.
promoted, and I made sure we had customers and stuff like that. And then, you know, as Phil's health was getting a little, it was getting worse. You know what I mean? It was deteriorating over time. So then I would kind of segue into doing his position. You know, I would, you know, do compliance and stuff like that. So I was overwhelmed. I was working easily 75 to 80 hours a week, just hustling.
Wow.
But in any event, so our accountant had me come in. They're like, "Hey, we need you to come in," or whatever. And some stuff I can't talk about because it's still under,
it's cool.
you know, legal stuff. But they're like, "So what's going on?" And I was like, "No, I'm good. I thought everything's cool. Like, shit, I just got paid yesterday. What's up with you?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, we have some reason to believe that there may be some mismanagement of funds." So I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, "Well, who's in charge of your compliance?" I'm like, "You already know who's in charge. Phil is, you know." And well, long story short, come to find out, we have we ended up having to get some lawyers involved and such and such. Long story short, my business partner admitted that he had been stealing from the company. You know what I mean? So I'm like devastated. And it's really not even about the money at this point. It's really just, you know, because that'll always come. So long story short, he admitted it. We actually went through a deposition, you know what I mean? And he admitted it in the deposition, everything. So we had to dissolve the company. And this is like 2.5 years worth of just grind, building this up. I built this $1 million company over a period of 2.5 years. You know what I mean? Like, it was just devastating. I was depressed. Like, I went from everything. I lost my house, lost all my cars. We had like 50-something cars, lost all the cars. I took out, you know, all these lines of credit under my personal credit and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I was just like, dude, what the hell? So I'll never forget this day. It was March 28th, 2016, is when they came and got the rest of the cars, and I had to turn in my keys to my dealership, to my first dealership. And I'm just sitting there on the bathroom floor of my house, and I remember I was talking to my friend Shayna, and I was like talking to her. I was like literally like in tears, like damn near like I don't know what I'm gonna do. And she was just like, you know, we're just gonna pray about it, you know what I mean, and this and that.
Yeah.
And Shayna's real close. She's from Virginia. Her and shout out to Shayna and her family and her mom and them. And so I just kind of took a break, man. And but I needed a job. So it's funny because there was a security company / car service company that was like it was like armed car service. So they would provide car service and they would also do security but I never knew because I never really gave a fuck because I had my own stuff going on. You know what I mean? So, but I would always see them dressed up. They had on nice suits and drove these SUVs, these blacked out cars and stuff. So the owner of that company was like, "Hey, everything's all right," you know, because, you know, he saw me, we worked side by side with each other for like almost 3 years, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so I was like, dude, I told him everything what happened.
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, if you ever need a job, just let me know." And mind you, I hadn't had a job. I hadn't had a pay stub in what was going on 4 years. I hadn't had a physical job, you know, or not a physical job, but an actual job. So I was like, dude, I'll take whatever, you know? So they give you these things, what's called assignments, right? To, you know, whoever you're doing security for, or whoever you're doing the transport for, or anything like that. So I got an assignment. And I was like, okay, God, I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I just know that whatever it is, I need to pay some bills. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
get back on your feet.
Yeah, and I just need to do something, but, you know, I'm going to look at this as a sign. So the very first assignment that I got, and I'm still friends with this person to this day.
Awesome.
Joe hands me this assignment. I have to go to this secluded the secluded resort that's actually it didn't even have a name. It just had the address. It had the secluded resort that was behind this mountain. Okay,
Okay.
and I'm like, okay, and it had this guy's name. His name's Bob Veloz, Veloz, and he comes out. I was like, hi, how you doing? I'm gonna be anything you need, whatever I can. I'm of service to you. Just let me know. He's like, okay, cool. This is my wife. This guy was like 70. I don't know, 70, I think at the time he was like 77, 78. He's in his 80s now. But his wife was like my age, in his 30s. So I was like, okay, so I don't know what's going on here. It's none of my business. I don't see nothing, but it's whatever. So anyways, he's like, okay, do you mind showing us these addresses? We're looking at these properties. Mind you, like, I've been in Phoenix for a while, but I hadn't like really like been in Phoenix explored it. So we're looking at these houses, and I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? Because the first house we went and looked at, easily right off the bat, was like $20 million.
Wow, okay.
$20 million home. And he was like, I'm like, dude, who are you? And he just started busting out laughing. And he was like, well, we can get into that. We can have some conversation a little bit later. But in the meantime, let's look at a couple more houses. And you mind having dinner with us? So I'm like, I don't care. It's, whatever. If you're paying, I'm with it. And so long story short, we looked at a couple other houses, and these were like all averaging about anywhere between $15 to $20 million.
Wow.
And so we sat down to go eat, and we sat and talked for a little bit. He talked about how he used to play pro baseball, and he talked about how he used to be in the military, and I told him I used to be in the military as well. I did 8 years in the Air Force or whatever, and we chatted or whatever. And I told him he was like the first person I kind of like opened up to, because all that stuff that had happened with my last business was so fresh. Right. So he asked me, how did I get to this point? And I just threw up all over. I just told him everything. So, So in any event, he was like, he's like, okay, well, what I'm doing is we're looking for homes for me and my wife, because we just sold our house to our next door neighbor. She actually both bought the house next to us, and they're buying our house. I was like, oh, really? Okay. So, and he was like, would you like to see a picture? So he shows me a picture of the house. The house looked like my old fucking college campus. Like, the house is massive. You know what I mean? I'm like, who bought the house? So he shows me a picture, and it was fucking Oprah. Oprah Winfrey bought his house for $50 million. I'm like, dude, who are you? His name's Bob Veloz, and what he does is he owns the company that fuels all of the aircrafts for United and for American Airlines. I'm like,
of course he did.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is wild, dude. So I was like, okay, guy, this was a sign. You know what I mean?
You asked.
So I asked him. So I was like, okay, so let me ask you a question. Like, what are you reading right now? And he said, so he gave me a couple books, and he was like, he's like, that's interesting. No one's ever really asked me about that. I was like, what are you reading right now? So he gave me like a list of books. Then after that, after we were done, he handed me $200. He was like, thanks. And then after I left, he gave me he texted me a bunch of other books to start reading or whatever. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, all right, God. So I get it now. I had to get stripped of everything that I knew of and all that stuff that was going on with my last business to get me exposed to another side of life that I had never seen before. You know what I mean? And that's exactly
kind of like a deconstruct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely. Okay.
So yeah, that's what happened, man. You know what I mean? So I'm still cool with the family to this day, and then so I got back and I talked to my director, and he was like, "How was it?" I was like, "Dude, let's get it. Like, sign me up." So who's the next one? You know what I mean? So what's
the next assignment? Yep.
Yeah. So next thing you know, I'm just getting I'm starting to get exposed to a life that I had never seen before. You know what I mean? I'm going to people who own these private jets and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? I met the owner of Campbell's Soup, who has his own private hangar. Yeah, he lives out there.
I'm sure.
And there's he showed me to his secret area of the hangar where there's he has about, I don't know, well over 100 exotic cars that are underneath the tarmac. You know what I mean? Just
Okay.
Bugattis and all this stuff. Like,
Protected.
it's
Wow.
literally like hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cars underneath where these private planes are parked. You know what I mean? So I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, this is why everything had to happen to me. This is why I had to go through, you know, everything with my last business partner. That's why I had to dissolve. That's why I had to get fucked over the way I did, you know, so I can get brought back to seeing the big picture and be exposed to a life that had never even knew existed. You know what I mean? So that's how I got fast forward to where what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I know I'm kind of going on and on, but
No, no,
I
no. This
just
is
wanted to
good
kind
though,
of give you
because
an
I need
idea of
people to see
what was going on.
what I've been talking about is most people, you know, they do the standard. I go to school, I get a job, I get a family, and that's the formula that's been preached to us forever and ever. But I want more people to see that every journey is completely different. Like you did military, you went to college at some point, you got a job, you moved across the country, you tried to build your own business, and it didn't work, and that's cool. But how do you move on from that? Like people don't understand. They don't want to talk about the failures, but they also don't want to talk about how they got through the failure and got to the next success.
Oh yeah, it was tough, man. I'm not even gonna lie. Like it was heavy, man. It was really dark time. Like, but I don't know, man. It's just one of those things where, you know, it's just as long as you're alive, you know. It was just it was just something that I always said, like, hey, as long as I'm awake, I'm gonna find some good in this situation. What can I do? Just take it one day at a time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? To get there. You know what I'm saying? To get to where I'm at. And it was a lot of going back to the absolute. You know what I mean? So it was listening to a lot of Brian Tracy. I went back to studying Napoleon Hill all over again.
Okay.
It was a lot of just literally just reading all over again. There's this guy, his name's Dr. Dennis Kimbrough out of Atlanta, out of Clark, Atlanta, and he wrote a book called Wealth Choice.
Okay.
And I remember reading about like the average successful person reads at least 3 to 4 books a week. So, you know, in the midst of all of this that's going on, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I got to just start studying again. And one thing that I was very proud of when I did have my dealership, my first dealership, is that I had access to a lot of you know, when you're running businesses, you find other people that have businesses, and you
Right.
know, you hear through the grapevine about other things that's going on. And one
Yeah.
thing, I found a library that was going out of business, and once I found I was going out of business, I bought the whole library. You know, I bought over
Awesome.
10,000 books.
Yep.
So it was like I just had them. Just, you know, I gave a lot to charity.
Hmm.
There's this charity called Gifts Children's Books that I'm very involved with. So shout out to Miss Najla that runs that. But
Awesome.
the other way, I just threw in my storage because it was just way too many books. I had a bunch in my library that I built up my house, and so I just started pulling stuff from my storage and just reading. Like, became like
Okay.
this voracious reader. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
I
see
would
that
read
pile of
like
books behind
crazy.
you right now.
Yeah, I'm still in my office even now. And like, yeah, I keep books, and you know, I read in between customers. I
Yeah.
said that, and that's a part of that's part of my day to day routine. Like, you know, part of my quote unquote power hour. You know, I at least designate at least an hour to an hour and a half to just reading. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in any event, that's what I did to help me kind of get out of this um, mild depression, because I would read, and I would read other stories about other people who kind of went through similar situations. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And it was very helpful. It was inspiring, and kind of, you know, kept my spirits up throughout that whole situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So obviously you don't drive for these people still, but the assignments got you connected to new people. You got to hear from their
Yeah.
stories and learn and stuff. So
I
what
met
was your next move?
I met some really cool people, man. I met some, you know, some amazing people. You know what I mean? So it was really cool. And even now, like, I turned that into my own. Not like, now I'm contracted to do work, you know, from time to time. But and if I see it, and I'll see who it is, then it's like, okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and you know, like recently I met who was it, Jesse Itzler, and
Okay.
he's one of the co-owners of the Atlanta Hawks. He's, you know, and when I saw who it was, I already followed him on Instagram. Dude's
Right.
fucking amazing. You know what I mean? And I met with him, and it was really cool. Like, it was cool right off the bat. And I think the other part about it is I was so comfortable with meeting people of, I don't want to say of his caliber. Well, I mean, I guess you could say of his caliber,
Of his caliber, yeah.
or you know, or that someone linear to that. It just made me
Mm-hmm.
comfortable to be around that, as opposed to being all starstruck and bitching up
Yeah,
and not knowing what to say and mumbling and all this other stuff. You know, it
sure.
just made me very comfortable around anybody. I can have a conversation with anyone on the planet, anywhere, about anything, everywhere. And you know that, being in the
Yep,
industry that we used to be in, working together, you have to be able to have the
exactly.
ability to speak to people, especially
Right.
face-to-face interpersonal communication is critical. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So meeting him, you know, we met right off the bat. When I saw him, when I saw who I was going to be dealing with, I immediately grabbed my running shoes because I know he likes to train. And when I met him, I was like, yo, man, I follow you on Instagram. You know, if you want to get a run in, you know, we can. There's because he had a speaking engagement like at, I believe it was at 7.
Okay.
And, you know, I got him around 3:30, and this was like right after I left one of my CBD stores. You know, I
Okay.
actually had it while I was at the store. They're like, "Where are you
Okay.
going?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it." So, in any event, yeah, I saw him, and he's like, "You serious?" I was like, "Yeah, I worked out this because I had already worked out that morning." But
Okay.
he's like, "Yeah, I got some miles in this morning, but I need to get another workout in." So we
Okay.
went and stopped, but he was like, "Well, let's go get us I was like, "Well, have you ate yet?" And he was
Yeah.
like, "Nah." He was like, "Well, let's he's like, "Let's go find a smoothie place." So we went to go get some smoothies. We went to go get actually went to go get some bowls, but we only had the smoothies. And I was like, "Well, there's Camelback Mountain. It's like 5 minutes from here, and we can go
This is that
train."
post we saw a couple days
Yeah,
ago. I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like,
So I was
dang,
like,
really? Okay, go ahead.
so we went and got smoothies, and I was like, "Well, Camelback Mountain is probably about 7 minutes from here. We can you know, I could just throw on my sneakers real quick, and I already have my running clothes in the trunk. If you want to get down." He's like, "You serious?" I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, he's like, "Let's go, fuck it, let's go." So we like left right in the middle of us having a smoothie, sitting at the table, just rapping or just talking or whatever. And we drove to the resort that was by there, parked, and ran for about a mile and a half, warmed up, stretched, and then after that we ran up the mountain together, and we were just talking. And
Okay.
it's like it didn't really dawn on me who I was with until like people started saying stuff. I was like, but you know, obviously from the outside looking in, it's like, oh shit, this guy's training with, you know, Jesse Itzler. But
Yeah.
I was just like, yo, this is just another client. It's another person I've made as a friend. You know, and we text each other since then. And, you know what I mean? It's just been cool, and hopefully that develops into, you know, a great relationship. You know what I
I
mean?
have no
But
doubt.
yeah, but the point I'm making is, it's like none of that is possible if the situation with my last dealership never happens. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true.
So, you know, it's just one of those things where you just got to look on the bright side of things, and at the end of the day, God always has something bigger for you, and in the midst of, you know, your quote unquote failures. You know, so it's
So
been
two
good though.
things
It's
you
been cool.
pointed out that were major, I think, is that your ability to connect with anybody. And I think that's big. I think a lot of people need to learn how to develop that more than texting on social media. Actually get out in front of people and talk to them in person. And the other thing is the fact that you're a voracious reader. I think that if you continually put new information into your mind, you kind of have no choice but to level up and adjust your thinking accordingly. So it gives you more to consider as you make your decisions and stuff. So
Yeah,
obviously you mentioned your CBD stores, and it's not just one, it's many. How did you get into CBD?
it's funny. I met them through a friend of a client that I had. So
Hmm.
2017, I met my now business partner, Ty Palmer, who actually owned a grow farm in Oregon.
Okay.
So he was like, but he found out that I owned a car dealership, so he was interested in coming with me to the auction. Because,
Okay.
well, before then, after I had started working for a little bit, I was able to make enough money to where I was able to go get my own dealership. So I was able to start back over again, and I got
But
a
on your
small
own, right?
dealership.
No
Yeah,
partners.
so I got to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, no partners, no none of this stuff. I started another car dealership called Boutique Autos, and I was flipping cars and doing this on the side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plus personal training, and just, you know, security, all this other stuff. But in any event,
Sure.
so I met Ty, and he was like, "Yo, I want to go to the auction." You know, I was like, "Cool." So we started talking, and he told me what he was into and everything like that. And he owned a grow farm, and he was in, you know, recreational marijuana sales. So I was like, yo, I want to check out your farm. So he was like, you serious? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, when do you want to go? I was like, well, when can I go? And he's like, we can go this weekend. This was on a Thursday. And I was like, all right, cool. He's like, so this is in Oregon. I got a flight the same day. And after the auction, I booked my flight. And then that Friday, I flew up to Oregon and checked out his farm. It was a massive farm. It was like acres and acres and acres of marijuana. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like straight out of, you know, out of Scarface. You know what I'm saying? Just so much weed. But he was like, well, I'm looking into doing a franchise in Arizona, but more so just focus on the CBD side of things because the recreational is becoming very saturated.
Right.
So it's basically developed this concept called CBD Exclusively. You can go to cbdexclusively.com, and it's the Walgreens of CBD products. So we have over 30 vendors. We have over 100 different items, and you walk in, and it's literally set up like a pharmacy. So, you know, there's a lot of educational materials and everything like that. And that's basically it. And long story short, we opened up our first location September of last year, and we just signed the lease on our 5th location last week. Last week. So we signed a lease on our 5th location. So we'll have 5 locations open to the general public by the end of June.
That's amazing news. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been cool, man.
So what I've heard you say, though, is you're not just doing just CBD exclusive. You've got clients, you've got cars, you've got a lot of things going on, and it's like multiple streams of income.
Yeah, I just try to stay busy, man. That's really what it is, man. I just try to stay busy. And I'm blessed.
How do you manage all of that?
You just got to be efficient with your time, man, and try not to overindulge in bullshit. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Really
and yeah, and I think that awakening, I don't know how much you learned from being at Wyndham and then having left at some point. I don't know how you left. Did you choose to leave, or were you part of that front line?
Nah, man, I was actually pissed when we left because that was when the company had went out of business, or not went out of business, but they were downsizing.
It was having trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened? We were what was it? It was just like on a Tuesday or something. That was at the time. That was when I had was making like the most money I'd ever made in my life. I was still like in my early 20s, you know what I mean? And I remember it was on a Tuesday, and I had an appointment to go to go to the dealership to go buy my dream car that Saturday. And I remember I can't remember the director's name at the time, but he came in and he was like,
Idolo?
Not Idolo, but the other guy.
Brendan Hawkins?
Well, no, it wasn't even Brendan. It was the other guy, the short, bald guy. Can't remember his name offhand now.
Okay,
but
never mind. It doesn't matter.
He was like, we're dissolving the company as of today. So I looked over at Bernie. And I was like, yo, what's that mean? He was like,
Bernie, I heard from him recently.
Over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then me and Sean Redwood were like, damn, man. He was like, so you still gonna get the car? And I was like,
that changes things a little bit. Shit.
Dog, I was like, nah, man, it's over, man. So that's actually part of the reason how I ended up out in Arizona, because after that dissolved, I was like, well, maybe this is a sign, and I just need to change the scenery. So I ended up from there leaving to come out here. So 2 big losses, lots of personal development. You had to kind of check who you were, what you were doing, where your time and energy were being spent. So if you had to teach anything, like 2 things that you had to leave with kids that are in university, because I'm doing this interview because I want to share it with the University of Cape Town in South Africa. And I need them to understand that, yeah, you're in school and you're probably doing what your parents told you to do, but at some point you got to face the real world. So if you could prepare them in any way with 2 pieces of advice, what would they be? I don't know, man. It's a lot. Sorry, it's a heavy question. Because I'm not even where I want to be at. I know where I'm gonna be, but and that's cool. But I think number one is it's funny. One of my clients who's actually become a personal friend of mine. It's Bob Johnson. He used to be the owner of the Charlotte Bobcats. Okay. And he has this quote where he says, "Make your friends before you need them." You know, so So that's definitely like that's definitely like uh has stuck with me like tremendously
Absolutely.
because you gotta your Jay-Z always says like your network is your net worth, you know.
Yes.
So it's not about what you have, is what you have access to, you know what I
Yes.
mean. So at any given moment, um if you need to make a call and whatever the resource is, you need funding for your business, you need,
Hmm.
you know, anything, any type of recommendation, whatever the case may
Right.
be, you know, you just want to make sure that you keep your, you know, you don't burn your bridges. And that was
Okay.
fortunately what I was able to do in the midst of everything. Is I'm cool, I'm good anywhere, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just I you know, I don't burn your bridges whatsoever, you know. So that would be number one. And
Okay.
then the number two, I guess, is just never. Tony Robbins has this not mantra, but this saying, CANI, constant, never-ending improvement, CANI. So
Okay.
it's just constantly just building and learning your craft and just constantly educating yourself, you know. And that's one thing that, you know, from the outside looking in, it's just funny because some people would be like, you know, looking at me and before, without having a conversation, they probably wouldn't know the things that I know. You know what I mean? It's just,
But how
oh,
could they?
but how could they? You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. And it's fucked up, but it's the honest to God truth. You know what I mean? It's just, it's one of those things where it's like, man, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. But in any event, I would just constantly improve yourself, you know, whether it's
Absolutely.
through reading, whether it's through finding mentors, whether it's through seminars, whether it's through YouTube, whether it's just be a sponge and just constantly, you know, I mean, even now to this day, like I picked up speed reading. I got a speed
Okay.
reading course
Yeah.
DVD. What was it, like 2 months ago? Just because I want to learn so much and know so much more, you know.
Okay.
So I was like, look, I want to read a book a day now. I'm done with reading one or two a week. I want to learn as much as humanly possible. Because I remember with my discussion with Jesse last week, he was like, yo, man, you know, the average life expectancy for a man is 75, 80 years old. So you've got what,
Yeah.
40 something, maybe, maybe 50 summers left in out this bitch.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So what you gonna do
Wow.
with it?
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
you got
Exactly.
50 summers left and they're ticking, you know? So get as much as you can and then give it away, you know? So that would be my two things. Just keep your you know, keep your don't burn your bridges and keep learning, you know.
Keep learning. I got you. I really appreciate you taking the time. And it's true what you said about, don't judge a book, because I think the landscape is changing. Those multimillionaires out there, those billionaires out there, they aren't the guys in the three-piece suit no more. They're the ones that are rocking around in sweatpants and a t-shirt because it's simpler. It's easier to get to wherever they're going. And you would never know who you were speaking to if you came up on them in
Absolutely
just
not.
regular clothes every day.
Absolutely not. I remember when I first took on this position, I was probably around at least a few $1 billion a week in net worth with the uh with the clientele that I was dealing with, and and hold on, I got a message,
No
and
problem.
absolutely none of them wore suits. I think the only one who wore a suit was Mr. Johnson, and he was just doing it because he had to do. He was just a part of like some. He was on the board of some meeting that they all had to
He
wear
was attending
business
something.
attire. Yeah.
I
But
got
other
you.
than that, it's literally like when I met with Jesse last week, he had on like some swim trunks and a white tee.
So if you hadn't been following him on Instagram already, would you have recognized him, you think?
Yeah, I would have recognized him because, you know, I'm just kind of in that realm. You know what I mean?
You pay attention. You're one of those really, you're awake. You're very awake. You're not
Yeah.
just moving through life and just getting from one place to the next. You pay attention to everything. And I
Hmm.
like the way you move because, like you said, you've never met anyone you couldn't talk to. You promote people that you think are dope everywhere you go. I think you're just one of those few people, and I think they're coming up, but there needs to be more men like you that stand up for what they believe and know who they are, first of all, and that are just trying to learn and absorb as much as they can. So I'm proud. I am excited. I know we haven't been the closest of friends, but I'm grateful for you to be even in my atmosphere at the moment. So that's really amazing.
Yeah, we'll always be good, man. You know, I think But you're right, man. That's the third piece of advice, to be like, just never forget who you are, man. Like, you know, and that's something I had to remind myself constantly. You know, anytime you get to a point where even it doesn't even matter what it is, whether it's in business, whether it's you're at your job, whether, you know, you're with your spouse, whatever the case may be, man. At the end of the day, man, you're you're a motherfucking badass. You know, you're a superstar, and don't you ever
Yeah.
forget it. Don't let anybody take that away from you. You know what I mean? Ever, ever. You know, and sometimes when I get frustrated when I'm dealing with employees, or if I'm dealing with the unruly client or whatever the case may be, man, I just gotta take a step back and remember who I am, man. You know, it's like, man,
You have
listen,
an
wait a minute.
unbelievable amount of skin in the game. So
Yeah.
really, nobody can say shit to you, for real. Like, what could they
Oh, they
possibly say
try.
that
I
you
mean,
have
I
no
get it
good?
all
I
the
know,
time,
of
man.
course.
I get it all
First
the
of all, you look
time, man.
really young. First, you know, you look really young. You're still skateboarding and, you know, dressing chill and everything. So I'm sure people be coming at you, but
Yeah, it's just,
you
but
really
yeah,
have
man,
lived.
but just when people have those types of doubts
Mhm.
and those insecurities about themselves, man, you just can't forget who you are, man. That's really what it all
Yeah.
boils down to. You know, remember who you are, man. You're here for a reason greater than yourself. There's people you never met that's dependent on you, you know, to to
Yeah.
to continue to move towards your divine purpose. So just keep it moving, man. But don't forget who you are in the process. Don't lose yourself, you know.
I appreciate it a lot. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's late for you. It's after, way after 10. I don't even know what time it is right now, but
Yeah,
it's
it's all
pushing
good.
to 11 and you've had a long day. So I appreciate it as always. Keep in touch. Wherever I can, I will share what you're doing. I am proud that you picked yourself up. It hasn't been that long. I mean, if it was 2016 that all this stuff happened, like, you've done a lot in the
Yeah,
last few
man.
years. A lot.
It was a dramatic comeback.
The glow up is real. Just keep on
Yeah.
going. So I will catch up with you again soon. You guys, thank you so much for joining us and listening in. Catch the replay for 24 hours. After that, it will be on Facebook and YouTube. But I know that South Africa would be grateful because this is information actually everybody needs to know, which is why I put it on this platform first. I want people to see. I want people to realize that you still got time. You could turn it around. Anything could happen. You just got to be open to it.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate you. God bless you.
Much love. Take care.
For sure.
Bye.